So now that everybody has seen the movie, I am going to give you my thoughts and my review of Avengers Age of Ultron. Just to get this out the way, I'm pretty sure everybody has seen the movie by now. It came out on Friday. It's Monday. This is a spoiler alert. If you do not want to know what happens in the movie, just cut it off now. It's going to be full spoilers. So let's just get right into it. So the opening scene of the movie I thought was really executed well. I liked how the team, the Avengers, they were already assembled. It was one shot going from member to member, doing some big action spots. Some of the CGI was a little off. I noticed some points where it just kind of seemed a little bit awkward. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good. And I think there was some pretty good humor moments in the opening scene as well. I like the route that they took with Baron Strucker's character. He had a little bit of humor to him. That was pretty cool. And then quickly, we're already introduced to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. They're being experimented on in the beginning of the movie, and we see some really weird stuff from Scarlet Witch. Like, it was a real horror movie-esque with like the way that they moved the camera, and she kind of gyrated like a witch. It was just really cool. As the film progressed, we saw the creation of Ultron, really quick. I thought that went by a little too quick. I felt like the creation of him was rushed, and there may have been some footage that we lost in that process to just kind of see him come to life. Let's talk about the party scene. I think the party scene was executed very well. You saw a lot of other side characters, such as War Machine, played by Don Cheadle. You saw Falcon, played by Anthony Mackie. And then the entire sequence of like trying to lift Thor's hammer was pretty priceless. I mean, we had already kind of seen it, in earlier trailers, but it still felt like a really funny scene, even in theaters. And just to see everybody's reaction was great. And to see Thor's reaction when Cap almost lifted the hammer was pretty good too. But to see the creation of Ultron happen so quickly, and it happened by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner's hands, it was a little weird for me. As one friend put it to me, he said that this whole film could have really been avoided in the first place. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because they could have retired if Tony hadn't gotten so selfish and wanted to just end the team by creating this artificial intelligence. They probably wouldn't have had this conflict arise in the first place. As the film goes on, we get to Wakanda and some vibranium references, and we see Ulysses Claw for the first time, and that whole sequence, it was pretty good. It was a little weird for me as well. I think the pacing around this time of the movie, it was just starting to really find its groove. Then we get to Scarlet Witch pretty much hexing the entire team's mind and taking them out of action. I thought these dreamlike sequences that revealed their biggest fears, I thought that those were done pretty well. I didn't think they needed to be revisited later on in the film. I think they were done well at the moment that they were given. From that point, we get to the big Hulk and Hulkbuster fight. Iron Man with his Hulkbuster outfit, or the program called Veronica that he and Bruce Banner created in worst case scenarios, like when the Hulk got hexed by Scarlet Witch. I think everybody would pretty much agree the fight was incredible. It was amazing. It was just pure destruction in that city. They just destroyed everything. They had really good action scenes in that part. To have Tony Stark pretty much narrating the whole fight as we're watching it was pretty hilarious as well, especially the moment where he was like repeatedly punching him, telling him to go to sleep. Like that was hilarious. By this point, we get to like afterwards, and we travel to Hawkeye's his family's home, which is in the middle of nowhere, and we see this backstory develop for Hawkeye. He has a wife, he has 2 children. Nobody knew about this, so we start to see the humanization of his character. And Hawkeye had a lot more to do in this film than he did in the first Avengers. The first Avengers, he was just a mindless drone, basically. But this movie, he had a lot to do, and I felt like he was the audience's perspective on everything, because he's the most human out of everybody, and he has his family. We got a chance to really see that, and he had some pretty funny moments as well. So then we transition, from country to country. It's a lot of movement in this movie. And with a 2.5-hour movie, they put so much into it. Sometimes it felt a little off. I think the pacing kind of suffered from the amount of characters that are in the movie. So I think, after that, we get a pretty good action sequence between Captain America, Ultron, and Black Widow and Hawkeye in Korea. They have a pretty good action sequence. It's like a car chase type of deal, while Ultron is trying to essentially create the Vision, which we will talk about later. Before that, I do want to talk about Ultron. The trailers depicted him as like this really menacing, evil villain, but we actually got a really sarcastic, a really petty villain villain out of Ultron. I mean, he had a lot of like weird black comedy jokes that he threw in. And I know some fans have been split on that. Some fans like really liked that about him, that it was something that they didn't expect, but others wanted to see more darker moments from Ultron, since that's what we were led to believe. Overall, I'm kind of indifferent about it. It makes sense why he was a little comedic, because he was created by Tony Stark. You know, that makes sense. But then also, I do understand, like, you know, how much of a threat was he really? And I don't think he really had that time to develop. Again, we're talking about a 2.5-hour movie with 11 main characters. It's so much to try to fit in that short time span. But let's talk about the Vision. Probably by far my favorite moment of the film, when the Vision finally arose. He was created by Ultron, but he was awoken by Thor with the electricity, the lightning. It was a real Dr. Frankenstein monster type of deal, how they brought him to life with electricity. I thought that was really, really cool. And they just absolutely nailed his look. Like, there was more practical effects for the Vision than I thought that there would be, and I think Paul Bettany's portrayal was just spot on. I love the little quirky moments they add in, like when he looks at Thor's cape and he makes his own cape. That was really cool to me. Let's just talk about the most shocking moment of the film, hands down, when Vision picks up Thor's hammer and hands it to him. I mean, what a moment. Like, everybody in the theater gasped, and everybody's reactions was just priceless. That was one thing that they executed and delivered really well. We had the scene in the beginning of the film where they tried to lift Thor's hammer, nobody could, and then Vision, I keep confusing him with Ultron, Vision just picks it up with ease like it was just nothing, and it was priceless. It was really a great moment in the movie. And then we get to the final action sequence. It was pretty big. You could tell that they were trying to really recapture the magic of the big action sequence that they had in the first movie. I thought the lifting of the city was pretty different to see. Ultron was essentially trying to recreate like an asteroid like that killed the dinosaurs. So I thought that was really an interesting scenery that they created with that. And overall, I really liked the action sequence. Does it, you know, surpass the one in the first movie, the finale in the first movie? Not in my eyes, but it was still really well. I thought it was pretty well executed. There were some great visuals as well. And let's talk about a great moment when all of the Avengers finally come together and we get that one circular shot of everybody just destroying all of the Ultron bots. Like, it was just amazing to see everybody's powers at once. You saw Cap, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Iron Man, Hulk, just the whole team just really showing what they're about. So a few things I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Vision. I thought he was executed very well. And I think all of the action was really great. It's like a comic book jumped off the page right onto the screen. It was amazing to watch. He had some great humor moments. I think there were some really good things in there, especially like War Machine with his joke that he had. You know, Hawkeye had a lot of funny moments, especially towards the end in the final action sequence. Overall, I think it was just a really good movie. I think they really delivered on everything that they pretty much promised. Joss Whedon did a great job at handling all these characters. That's no small task. There were a lot of things to take into account, and he really showed how much work he put into this. Now, some things I didn't quite like: the Bruce Banner, Natasha romance. I just wasn't feeling it. I couldn't buy it. There were a few forced jokes, like the "you didn't see that coming," you know, with the bad accents from Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Not to mention that Quicksilver, he pretty much got put on the back burner in this movie, so when he died, I didn't care that much. You know, I thought it was a good move to kill a character, but I just wasn't invested as much as if they possibly killed another character. Again, like I said earlier, some of the pacing of the movie was a little bit off in the beginning. I think they started to find their groove after the Iron Man and Hulk fight. I think at that point it just started to go full steam ahead. This is a really great movie. You know, again, I think they did a really good job at executing this and setting up some future things in the universe. But I will say the whole Thor adventure of him like wandering off by himself, they could have handled that better. I understand what they were trying to do with references to Infinity War coming up, but I just didn't like how he just randomly left the team to just go complete, you know, whatever it is that he wanted to complete. Is it better than the first Avengers? That's the question that everybody is always asking. And for me, it's not better than the first, and that's really not a fault of its own. The first Avengers was just such a special moment in cinematic history that probably will never be replicated again. I specifically remember the feeling that I got after watching the first Avengers. I had goosebumps. I felt like a kid seeing all of these characters I grew up with on screen for the first time. We are, you know, 11 films into the MCU, and we've seen these characters 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. You know, that special memorability has worn off, just to be honest. It's a great film nonetheless, but that special moment just cannot be recreated no matter what you try to do. Ultimately, overall, I think the action is better than the first movie, but the story and, like I said, just the character development in the first movie and just that special feeling of seeing them all together, it just won't be surpassed. First one edges it out just by a bit. If we're all talking that the first one is the greatest comic book film ever made, then this one is close behind. I would give it about a 8.5 out of 10. It's a really good movie, and you should definitely go see it. So listen, just go see the movie. It's amazing. It's still one of the best comic book films, you know, made. You're gonna enjoy it. It's a lot of great stuff in the movie, so go check it out.